stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Hey Eagles fans, welcome to the road to Glendale. We did it in 2017 in Minneapolis, and our quest to do it all over again in Arizona starts right now. My name is Joe Mesa. I'm an Eagles season ticket holder and a lawyer. I fight for Philadelphians every day who are victims, injured by the negligence of corporations, the medical industry, and others. Enjoy this playoff special with a lineup of all-stars: Marc Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney, Mike Missinelli, and Eagle Hall of Fame linebacker Seth Joyner. The road to Glendale runs through Philadelphia. Let's go Birds.
NFL Championship Sunday, getting things underway with the JAKIB Media Pregame Show and the road to Glendale, sponsored by our friend Joe Mesa of Mesa Law and Associates. All the games boil down to this, leading up to the Super Bowl, where the Eagles will kick off at 3 o'clock today at Lincoln Financial Field as they play host to the second-seeded San Francisco 49ers. I know fans were lining up at 4 a.m. this morning outside Lincoln Financial Field, and we're here where many more fans will be joining us as game time approaches at the Gallery Bar, booking games at Ocean Casino and Resort. Marc Farzetta, along with Eagle great and Hall of Famer himself, Seth Joyner, and veteran Eagles reporter, Mr. Derek. Oh, you are pumped, I already know. Seth, I have never seen our friend this amped up and this ready to go for Championship Sunday. I mean, Gunner, you're like tickled pink over there.
Let me tell you something, man. You know, in our show Sports Take Monday through Friday, we all know Rob Ellis. Rob Ellis has been jacked up since Wednesday. So I've given him different ways to calm himself until actual game day. And I said, when game day gets here, then you unleash all that pent-up anxiety, frustration, enthusiasm. So, Rob, if you're out there watching, now's the time to let it go, baby. Now
it's too early.
It's too early. Okay.
Come on, Seth.
We're under 2 hours away from game time, Seth.
Hey, listen, by the time he get a couple of wings in him in the first quarter, he'll be over there falling asleep.
All right.
And I'll be tapping him on the shoulder. Come on, man, you gotta track the game.
We got a post-game show
too early, man.
We got a post-game show. You know, Seth,
actually, baby.
Believe it or not, that's a perfect segue in how I wanted to open things up today, Seth, because, you know, a lot of these players in the locker room, they've been here before, and then most of them have not been here before. So how do you kind of get that happy medium between the veteran players like Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, who have been here and won a Super Bowl, versus maybe the younger guys on the staff, for instance, like a Jalen Hurts, and balancing the emotions going into a big game?
Listen, while, you know, a national championship game is not on the same level as, you know, what Jalen Hurts is going to face today and where he's trying to take this team, as far as his emotions are concerned, he's played in big games and he understands, you know, that you got to be even keeled. It's the same situation with these other guys who've never been on this stage before. You know, it's real easy to get overhyped and go out for warm-ups and, for lack of a better word, you know, shoot your load in warm-ups, and by the time you get to the second quarter, you ain't got nothing left, okay? I mean, you've only got so much energy stores in your body to be able to play this 60-minute football game. So you better be trying to, you know, preserve as much of it as you can while you can, so that when you call upon the energy and the adrenaline that's necessary at crunch time in these games, you can conjure it up, because it's real easy. You know, guys will be in the locker room at halftime eating chocolate bars, you know, Hershey bars and all kind of stuff, trying to conjure up some false energy. That's why you got to stay even keel until the first kickoff to the first series, and then you can kind of let it out, but you can't let it all out because you got a long game to play.
You know, the challenges have kept on coming for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, and most notably Jalen Hurts. And I know there's some injuries that we're going to get into in a second here, Gunner, but I want to first ask you about Jalen Hurts. It seems every single test that has been in front of him this season, he has passed with flying colors, whether or not he could be the guy, whether or not he could be the franchise quarterback, whether or not he could lead this team back to the playoffs, whether or not he could get a playoff win. He has continued to check those boxes. How prepared do you think he is for today?
There is nobody more prepared in that locker room than Jalen Hurts. He understands what's at stake. Jalen Hurts and that entire Eagles team, they remember what happened to them last year. You know, they were untested in a lot of ways. They went in against Tampa Bay, and they got embarrassed by Tampa Bay. But it was a great learning tool for a lot of guys who are still here. That's still very much etched in the back of their minds. They go into a game like this and they say to themselves, this is in our backyard. We have compiled all these stats. We are the most dangerous offense in the league. We are the defense with 70 regular season sacks, third best ever in the history of pro football, 75 including the playoffs. They've got to come in our house to beat that. Jalen Hurts is the consummate poker player. You don't know what he's thinking on the outside, but the wheels are always spinning on the inside. And his teammates are going to feed off of that. Once it's 3 o'clock and the kickoff begins, they are going to feed off Jalen Hurts as they've done all season long.
Really incredible. And when you talk about the tests that have been in front of him, stop me if you guys have heard this before. The Eagles haven't played anybody. They have the easiest schedule in all of football. Well, take a look at these numbers from our friend Jeff Kerr, who put these numbers together. When you look at Jalen Hurts' season against top 10 defenses, and as you guys know, the San Francisco 49ers put forth the best defense in the NFL. But Hurts right there, the number that jumps out to me, 11-1, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a near 119 passer rating. Seth, those numbers jump out to me about the type of day Jalen Hurts can have.
You know what? I'm really sick and tired of hearing, you know, that the Eagles haven't played anybody. Let's go and look at – I wish that, you know, I would have had the conversation with Joe before the show so we could have pulled up some metrics on what the 49ers record looks like. You know, they played in the NFC West this year. Seattle, the Cardinals, what's the other?
The Rams.
The Rams,
Yeah.
Okay? If you compile their records as far as wins and losses concerned, okay? Everybody used to always talk about Tom Brady winning because he dominated the AFC East. They dominated the NFC West. Simply, that's what happened with the San Francisco 49ers. The only team that they played that was of some substance all season long was the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs beat the brakes off them, okay? So don't talk to me about the Eagles playing the second easiest schedule and they haven't played anybody. Let's talk about the teams that every single team that they played was in a state of flux this year. They beat the Raiders down the stretch. You know, Brock Purdy beat the Raiders, and I think the last 2 games, the Raiders and Seattle, I believe it was, that they beat. Come on, man. Neither one of those teams are worth a damn, you know. So the Eagles play who's in front of them. The 49ers play who's in front of them, okay? You got the number 1 defense against the number 2 defense. You know, you've got these 2 teams that equally matched, in my opinion, in a lot of regards. The only difference is, you know, we've got an advantage from the standpoint of every position across the board, I would say, with the exception of the number 1 pass rusher in the league and the linebacker position, and maybe the running back position. Other than that, we dominated them across the board in every other facet, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Seth, when you do look at that NFC West, for instance, they were a perfect 6-0 on the season against the rest of their division. So that is definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration. In the game that you mentioned, 44 points Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chief offense put up on the San Francisco defense. Now, one of the things to look at in that game, I don't believe Nick Bosa I think he was just back for that game. He missed a game, I believe, earlier in the season. That was the first of 2 losses that they suffered consecutively during the year, which was to the Atlanta Falcons. Nick Bosa missed that game.
Can I just give you a rundown of what their schedule was, okay? So they lost to Chicago in week 1, okay? Then they beat Seattle. They lost to Denver in week 3, okay? Then they beat the Rams. They beat Carolina. They lost to Atlanta and Kansas City. Now, albeit they had a lot of injuries going on in the first half of the season. But Atlanta? Kansas City, I understand. Atlanta and Denver, which was a literal, hot mess from out the gate. And then Chicago, you lose to Chicago the first game of the season and you're fully healthy, okay? Then they beat the Rams, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Saints, the Dolphins, who are a mess because of injuries at that time.
Well, they were a good team at that point, and then he fell off the map after that.
So then you got Tampa Bay they beat. They beat Seattle.
Yep.
They beat Washington,
Yep.
Las Vegas, and they end up with a win against Arizona. Who the hell did they play? Come on, man.
No, I'm with you. I'm
Who
with
they
you.
play?
100%. And in that game specifically against the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes just went nuts on them. You look at that other game, you look at the game against the Atlanta Falcons, another mobile quarterback, Marcus Mariota, not on the same level, I'm not saying that, but just a quarterback that can get off his spot, buy time, create time, and all that stuff. And Jalen Hurts can obviously do those same things. So I'll ask you this, Gunnar. When you look at Jalen Hurts and you look at what this team, this San Francisco 49ers team, wasn't able to do against the Kansas City Chiefs, is it fair in this isolated season to put Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes on that same stage and say, Hurts can do a very similar thing to this defense that Mahomes did?
Well, he can, but like Seth said, the 49ers were a beat-up team defensively. They were down 4 or 5 starters at that point of the season. But Jalen Hurts can still come out and do a lot of the same things. Now, both teams are healthier, and by the way, the Eagles will have all 22 starters playing in this game today. No other team still standing can say they are that healthy across the board. That's a decisive advantage. But Jalen Hurts has all the attributes you want, both in the ground game and the aerial game, whether he's handing the ball off, whether he's tucking and running the football. He has been accurate. He has been very decisive. He has been protective of the football. He has been everything you want from a championship quarterback. You go back to earlier in the season, all he's done is enhance his overall play. And he's a meticulous quarterback, and he's playing this game in his own backyard. Those are huge factors going into a game like this.
You mentioned 22 guys back, 22 starters back. Avante Maddox, the latest to rejoin the fold now after Lane Johnson a week ago. When you look at Avante Maddox coming back, what are you expecting from him today, and what level do you think he'll be at?
They're not going to put him on the field unless he's sound, and obviously, since he was not on anybody's injury report on Friday, he's good to go. Avante Maddox is huge in terms of coming back to play that slot position because of the way the 49ers like to move their chess pieces. I think it's going to be a great matchup to watch if he's matched up against Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is very decisive in his patterns. But then again, he could be matched up against Christian McCaffrey. He could be matched up against Debo in the slot. Just the fact that he's on the other side of the football. Look at how disruptive he was in that game against Dallas down in Dallas Christmas Eve before he injured his toe. Disrupting the pass plays, disrupting running plays. And then all of a sudden, when he went down, Dallas started picking up chunks of real estate against that defense. You can't put a price on the value that he has. You talk about a star-studded defense. I think Avante Maddox is the unsung hero on that defense because you can move him around in so many different directions. He is going to be a great asset when it comes to lining up against whoever they stick in the slot in this game, except one guy.
Oh, no, who?
I don't know if they have a guy to hang with George Kittle. You might have to put one guy on another guy's shoulders to hang with George Kittle. I don't know how you defend that guy, Seth.
No, hey, listen, you defend him by, at least getting a shot on him at the line of scrimmage. You got to understand how offenses are tailored nowadays. Everything is rhythm and timing, okay? So if George Kittle's has got a route that requires him to break in or break out at 10 yards, okay? When he breaks out or in at 10 yards, he's expecting that ball. And the quarterback is expecting him to hit that mark at a specific time. That's what rhythm and timing is. So when you jam him at the line of scrimmage, you delay the timing. So when he's supposed to be at 10 yards, he's at 8 or 8.5 or 7. And now all of a sudden, the quarterback, if he's the primary, he's got to come off. He can't wait for him to get to 10. And he's certainly not going to break the route off because he got jammed at the line of scrimmage. Now you force him to go, to the second guy in the progression. As far as Avante Maddox is concerned, I cannot express to you how important it is to have him back. because I firmly believe, Derek, that he is the glue that holds this entire defense together.
Doesn't get enough credit.
Because not only is he a great cover guy, but he is a guy that Jonathan Gannon can utilize and does utilize in the blitz game.
Yep.
They run a lot of, different coverages, disguised coverages, where he's a big deal. You could see in the Dallas game, after he got hurt, every bit of aggression that Jonathan Gannon had planned for that day went out the window. Up until that time, he had blitzed 3 times. He had Dak on a 3rd down and couldn't get him down on the ground.
Right.
I just think that he is the linchpin for all the variety and all the creativity that Jonathan Gannon wants to implement in this defense. And when he's not on the field, he shies away from calling those plays because he just doesn't trust the other guys to get done what Avante Maddox gets done.
Look, I'm happy Avante is back, but I said all week long, I thought the Eagles had enough personnel-wise defensively to deal with this 49ers offense as a whole. Sometimes you spin that roulette wheel because if they get to the Super Bowl, what if he gets injured today and he can't play in that Super Bowl? I'd much rather have him in the Super Bowl. You don't play afraid. I'd much rather have Avante Maddox in that Super Bowl against the likes of Cincinnati or Kansas City than today. Because
I'd rather have him on the field today because
if
you don't win today, then it's all over. We're all fishing. They fishing, you fishing.
I know, brother.
I'm fishing. I'm on that boat with you too.
No, you golfing. I know you're gonna be golfing. Whether it's in the country or outside of the country, you're gonna be golfing somewhere.
All right, we're going to take a look at what the Eagles are going to do defensively with Avante Maddox back in the secondary today. What's it mean for Reed Blankenship? What's it mean for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.D. Deuce himself? But before we do that, we're going to hear from our friend Joe Messa, Messa Law and Associates.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Welcome back, JAKIB Media Pregame Show. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derek Gunn. Coming up in just a moment from Lincoln Financial Field, we'll be joined by our NFL insider for JAKIB Media, our friend Mr. John McMullen. So, gentlemen, we have Avante Maddox back in this game. We hope that Avante Maddox is at 100% or as close to humanly possible at 100%. So what do you do in this secondary now? What happens to Reed Blankenship? What happens to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? How do you use all 3 of these guys that can play either in the safety position or in the nickel spot?
Well, you have some variety now, and you have the ability because now you've got another guy that you can trust, that you can implement and put in anywhere, anytime. So now you can give Chauncey Gardner, a little break here and there. You can move him down in the break in the slot and give Avante Maddox a little break here or there. It wouldn't surprise me one bit to see in their dime package, when you pull Kazir White off the field, that the guy that you put in the box is Reed Blankenship. The kid knows what he's doing. He's a willing tackler. He really wants to lay some wood on people. And one of the chess matches that you're probably going to see today is in 3rd down situations, how you can nullify, that Eagles pass rush. There are some formations that dictate that you have to go dime personnel. That's 6 defensive backs. Well, when you got a guy like McCaffrey in the backfield and a blocker like Kittle, the chess match is on now. You go dime if you want to. We're just going to run it at you. So it allows you a lot of flexibility, and it allows you another player that, Jonathan Gannon can trust to run what he wants to have run. And if there's an injury or if there is, a guy needs a blow, or if there's any kind of emergency, you feel confident knowing that you can take Reed Blankenship and insert him in, and you can move, C.J. Johnson anywhere that you need to move him to get the job done for the day.
Gunnar, how would you organize it? I think that's a great point. Talk about all the versatility, all the, lack of a better term, optionality you're going to have at the nickel corner and safety positions here. How would you orchestrate it?
Well, unfortunately for Reed Blankenship, he's kind of like the odd man out in this game because they're healthy. His reps are going to be limited. I think you see him in like third and long situations, basically. I don't see the Eagles playing much more than 5 DBs at a time, especially with Avante backs. And unfortunately for Blankenship, for all that he's been able to do, an unknown commodity that has risen to the occasion all season long, he's not going to get the same amount of reps. With CJ, you need that guy back there in the center field. Neither one of these teams have seen the level of competition they're facing in this game today. Both have speed on the outside. 49ers have speed. You need CJ in the back end to roam the back end of that field with Marcus Epps, to go sideline to sideline, because Purdy doesn't have the strongest arm, but he will take his shots. And you've got to have guys who can get to the sideline on those deep sideline routes in a hurry. And I think, like Seth says, occasionally you have to cheat and bring CJ up, maybe drop Avante Max, trying to confuse Purdy a little bit. But for the most part, you need him roaming back there. There's a reason why he tied for the most interceptions in the league this year, because of his ball hawking ability. And this team is going to test that ball hawking ability today.
I want to talk about the two main storylines I think you could take away from just the regular season and where the Eagles are at now in the NFC Championship game. What if I told you this before the season started? Which would you guys less likely believe? That Jalen Hurts would be an MVP candidate, not only solidifying his spot as maybe the franchise quarterback here in Philadelphia. What would you rather believe? What would you more so believe? That he would be the MVP candidate, or that the Philadelphia Eagles defense would get 70 sacks in a season? Which would you be less likely to believe, Seth?
Oh, it's got to be Jalen.
Jalen over the sacks.
Listen, you go out and you bring in Hassan Reddick, and you know that, he's been a double-digit guy the last couple of years, last 2 years of his career. Josh Sweat began to come on last year. You had Brandon Graham coming back. I spent some time with Brandon, in the summer, and I could just tell he was primed and prepped, for a big year. And then, so you got massive competition, at the defensive end / rush position. Then on top of that, you turn around and you bring in Joseph and you bring in Sue and you draft, Jordan Davis. So the amount of competition that you're going to create at those positions, would probably lean more towards that being a viability than Jalen Hurts. We had a million, doubts about Jalen. Hey, could his accuracy get better? Could he raise his completion percentage? Could you give him a full field read instead of a half field read? Could he take the next step? Is his arm strength? Does he have enough arm strength to make the deep throw down the field? Hey, listen, those questions, his transformation is miraculous when you really stop and think about where he was last year this time and what he's become now. No one saw that. And if someone say that they saw it, they're lying. Now, I personally believe that he could pull it off. I just thought it would take more time. I knew that this year would be crucial for him to be able to get to a place where the organization could see him as a viable franchise quarterback. But the leap that he took, the only thing you can compare it to is what Josh Allen did in his third year. Mm-hmm. That's the recent comparison, that I can come up with.
Yeah, and I remember that comparison being made at the end of last year. Oh, he's not Josh Allen. Well, that's not the point. The point is that these numbers were achieved by Josh Allen, and they were also achieved by Jalen Hurts. It's possible he takes that leap forward. Gunnar, which less likely to believe? Jalen Hurts is the MVP or 70 sacks?
Great question, difficult answer, but I'm going to lean towards 70 sacks. Because of what we heard about Jalen Hurts as a person and his work ethic after that season, going into the offseason, we knew he was going to put in the work, put in the time. We did not know the level of excellence he would achieve. You can't foresee that. The season has to play itself out. The storyline has to play itself out. But do you know how rare it is to get 70 sacks in a season? The third most sacks ever in the history of pro football. Usually when we look at the season-ending stats, a team that achieves 50, 55 stats, we talk about the wow factor in that regard. But to go another 15 beyond that and achieve 70, and to have 4 guys in double digits in sacks, that's unheard of. That's a rarity you may not see for a long time. And because of the way Howie orchestrated this roster and brought in all of these dogs chomping at the bits, plus the holdovers he decided to keep, it meshed even better than anybody could anticipate. So I don't disagree with Seth's answer, but if you're going to twist my arm, I have to say the 70 sacks, because in all the years I've covered this game, I can't remember when I saw 70 sacks. I've seen quarterbacks make significant improvements. You know, Josh Allen in Buffalo is a prime example from one year to the next in terms of making tremendous strides in his overall play. And look at Josh Allen now that he doesn't have Brian Daboll, you know, watching him through games. Not the same quarterback, okay? But 70 quarterback sacks in a season?
In a Jonathan Gannon defense.
In a Jonathan Gannon defense on top of that?
That's where I thought I was going to get you, Seth, because Gunnar and I do agree with you. 70 sacks in the season.
I still can't believe it.
I just think that, you know, when you look at the level of talent on this defensive line, and I've seen this picture before. I've seen a multi-talented defensive line, right, and the competition level that it creates, it's a healthy competition. It's not one where, you know, you get 3 sacks in the game and I'm sitting over here pissed off because I got a half of one. You understand what I'm saying? You know, when Clyde got 3, you know, Reggie wanted 4. You know, when Mike got 2, Jerome wanted 3. And it was like a healthy competition. So when you watch these guys, you just know. You know that the competition is there and the talent is there. And it all came together. You know, will they be able to duplicate it again next year? Probably not, because it's a confluence of things that happen over the years. But I'll say this too. The Eagles only ranked 16th in the National Football League against the run. They accomplished that being ranked that low. I mean, normally you would be a dominant team against the run, forcing a team into passing situations, and then being able to get after the quarterback. But I think you can attribute a lot to that, to you know, how these two teams, you know, how the offense and the defense kind of work together. Because when the offense was just playing lights out and you get a lead, well, you just go get the quarterback. You just go get the quarterback. So I think that, you know, the commonality, and I know I'm using the wrong word here. It's just the word just won't come to my mind. Complementary. They play in such a complementary way, you know, that the offense helps the defense and the defense helps the offense.
There you go.
But Seth, you played a lot of defense. You watched a lot of defense.
I get it, brother.
When have you ever seen 70 sacks in a season?
Okay.
And I agree with everything you said. But that is phenomenal for a defense in today's game to achieve 70 sacks.
I will tell you this. Don't be surprised if it becomes more commonplace to see teams, you know, with 65 to 70 sacks a season.
You want
to know why?
Why?
Because you think about how great the Chicago Bears was to be able to pull off what they pull off. And I think this group this year broke our record for sacks in a season for an organization. Yeah. But we never had a situation where we had a quarterback throw the ball 40, 45 times in a game.
Very pass-happy league, of course.
So now the more you throw it, you create more opportunities. And that's just the truth of it all. It's like quarterbacks, and how many quarterbacks threw for, you know, back in the day was throwing for 4,000, 4,500, 5,000, 5,500 yards per season. The number of passes per game is going up, and that's why I always say when you talk about the Hall of Fame, you talk about greatness, how do you compare today's game to yesterday's game when Dan Marino was only throwing the ball 25 times? You know what Dan Marino would have done on a yearly basis if he could have put the ball in the air 45 to 50 times in a football game on average? I'll stop it.
No. 6,000 yards a season.
I mean, the record books would still yet to be broken if that was the case. Now, let's get to Lincoln Financial Field where our NFL insider, John McMullen, is standing by. John, I know fans, I said it at the top of the show, have been lining up to tailgate since 4 a.m. So let me just ask you this, and you're brought to us by our great friends at Thrive Financial Services. How was it for you getting into Lincoln Financial Field? How was the traffic surrounding the sports complex?
It was not a picnic, Mark. But it kind of cleared up as I got closer to 11th Street in the stadium. But, yeah, obviously people are fired up. A lot of tailgating early. So Broad Street exits both sides were really backed up. But managed to make it. That's what matters. So here we are, NFC Championship Sunday. And you all expected us to be here, right?
Of course.
Everybody.
Hey, John.
This team has been.
Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
This team has been the best team in the NFC. I think the most well-rounded team, pretty much from start to finish. But it was about midway through the season when you start to say, "Wow, this is pretty good," and this team's got a chance to be here. And to give San Francisco credit, I mean, they haven't lost in 3 months. So this is a legit opponent, even though I have the same questions as everybody else when it comes to Brock Purdy handling this environment. But he's been lights out to this point. I think he will give the Eagles opportunities to make some plays on defense. And I think the key is the Eagles got to make them. So if there's an interception to be had, it can't be dropped. Otherwise, this is going to be a really tight game in the fourth quarter.
Hey, John, I want to ask you a question that Mark just asked Seth and I a few moments ago. What did you think would be more unlikely? Jalen Hurts this season consistently being in the MVP conversation, or an Eagles defense accumulating 70 quarterback sacks in a regular season?
Oh, boy. Can I say none of the above? No, I got to pick one. I guess I would say 70 sacks. For this reason. This was a team coming off a 29 sack season. I believe it was 29, second to last in the NFL. And to go from that to 70, franchise record, almost broke the NFL record in one season, is pretty remarkable. Hassan Reddick, obviously a big part of that, sort of the last piece of the puzzle. But, Brandon Graham, I think people forget, Brandon Graham wasn't here for the majority of last season because of the Achilles. So they didn't have him for essentially the entire season. And even though Brandon has never put up massive sack numbers, just a really good player that really affected the Eagles last season, not having him. So to get those two players back, but that's an incredible jump. With Jalen, look, I always say, the people that say Jalen Hurts, they knew Jalen Hurts was going to be an MVP candidate, are either just blindly, drinking the green Kool-Aid, or they're lying. There's no other option. But he was a Pro Bowl alternate in his first year as a starter. He was a good player last year. But to see that incremental improvement to where he is now is still pretty remarkable. So both are crazy when you go back to the summer. And if you think about where this team was going to be, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be 70 sacks because, hey, no team in the history of the NFL has ever had 4 guys with 10 or more sacks. None. 0. This is the first team.
John, I'm gonna let that one rest. Talking about Avante Maddox, tell our viewers how important he is to this defense and how huge it is that the Eagles have him back in the lineup today.
He's extremely important. He's one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL. The Eagles are, if you look at the advanced numbers, the Eagles are number 1 in the NFL when Avante Maddox is on the field and the opposing team is targeting the slot. They were 27 when he was off the field. And there's a pretty good sample size each. He played 9 games. He missed a significant portion of the season. So you really saw the difference in effectiveness when he was on the field versus when he was off it. And then this game specifically said, Brock Purdy likes to target the middle of the field. He's not comfortable throwing the ball outside the numbers. And all of a sudden now you have Avante Maddox and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Jonathan Gannon can do some things. He can use invert cover too because he's got 2 players he can trust. He can have, mirrored positions. He could have Avante playing safety, C.J. playing the slot. Try to fool him is what I'm trying to say. If it were Josiah Scott playing the nickel or Reed Blankenship playing safety, probably doesn't feel comfortable with that. So I think getting Avante Maddox back for this game is really, really important. Now, he also hasn't played well, but when Avante's healthy, he is a big, big part of this defensive success.
John, I do want to ask you about this defense for the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody knows now, by all accounts, the best defense in the NFL. Jalen Hurts has played very well against top 10 defenses, as our friend Jeff Kerr pointed out earlier in the week. So when it comes to this San Fran defense, what is the best thing you think the Eagles can exploit? Where is the weakness do you think the Eagles can have a lot of success against?
Well, San Francisco is really sound, really solid, but they're not very complicated. They play a lot of cover three still. They have that mentality. They're susceptible to giving up big plays down the field. So they're more likely to, you might see the shot to A.J. Brown, Avante Smith, even Quez Watkins. It's one of the few categories they're down at the bottom of the league when it's giving up those 20-yard-plus pass plays. Everything else they do pretty effectively. They have the best linebackers in the NFL. They have the best pass rusher in the NFL, and Nick Bosa is going to be the Defensive Player of the Year. It is a really, really good defense. But, they're the number one defense in the NFL, and I think they gave up 1 or 2 yards less per game than the Eagles. So the Eagles aren't bad either.
Hey, John, evenly in areas across the board for this team, and I've said time and time again, I think the one distinct advantage, of course, is the quarterback play from Jalen Hurts compared to Brock Purdy, although Brock Purdy has been an incredible Cinderella story. But I've also said all of us, and I mean media across the nation, as we do each and every week, we analyze, we dissect, we talk about strengths and weaknesses, but I also mention the fact that there are so many unseen intangibles that decide the outcome of a game. Can you give me a 1 or 2 of those intangibles that we, let's just say in general, don't talk about that you think could rear its ugly head in this game for either team today?
Well, I think the hidden yardage on special teams is a big part of it. So where you're going to start your drives. We've talked about it. Interestingly, these are the only 2 teams in the NFL who have both a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. But they both haven't been great on special teams. They both struggled at times, more in the bottom half of the league. So that's always a big part. Who's going to have the better game in that aspect of it? Boston Scott's given the Eagles a little bit more juice in the kickoff return game. But I will say this. If this is a close game late, you don't want to see Robbie Gould on the field.
No.
If you're an Eagles fan, because he has been perfect in his postseason career. 29 of 29 field goals, 38 of 38 on extra points. But the field goals obviously would be the key there. And, Robbie's been around for a while. Never missed a field goal in the postseason. So, when you talk about a game with top 5 offenses and top 5 defenses, I start thinking about special teams. Who has the shorter fields? I start thinking about turnovers. San Francisco is +1 in turnover ratio. Philadelphia's +3. So they're both good at it. But who plays the cleaner game? Those are the things that are probably going to decide this game.
John, I want to talk about Brock Purdy for a second here, because I don't know, he's gotten a lot of praise, and he deserves it. The rookie comes in and wins 7 games in a row, 2 playoff games, a wild card game, and a divisional game. But if you go back and you look at the wild card game, I watched both of those games again. He looked disheveled, rattled, skittish in the first half of that football game. And I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit, because what he did at halftime is he adjusted his play calling, and he actually went to the run game to reestablish the pass game, to settle Brock Purdy down in the second half. The run game is going to be critical. I think the San Francisco 49ers, I think they rank 7th in rushing in the National Football League. The Eagles are 16th against the run. And I believe that Kyle Shanahan knows that he's got to limit the possessions in this game because of the explosive nature that the Eagles bring to the table. They're a team that scores 26 points per game. The Eagles score 28 points per game. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of equals, but I think that there's been very few teams, except for that little stretch between Houston, that Houston game and the Washington game where the Eagles have really, really been challenged on the ground. And I just think that, the game plan, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, is to come in, we're going to establish the running game right now, right away, and try to figure out a way to get Brock Purdy acclimated early in the game rather than having him skittish and out of balance in the first half of the game and having to adjust in the second half.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Eagles, they kind of bake into their defensive philosophy that they're willing to give up a little bit on the ground to limit explosive plays on the back end. That's the whole Eagle philosophy. That's the whole really big Fangio philosophy, the new age philosophy of NFL defenses. This is a game where you don't have to worry as much about the explosive play down the field. You got to worry about it yards after catch. Christian McCaffrey, phenomenal. Deebo Samuel, phenomenal. George Kittle catching the football over the field, tremendous yards after catch guy. Even Brandon Ayuk is that type of player. Whereas the running game is a bigger part of it. This is a coach, Kyle Shanahan, that already went to a Super Bowl. He threw the football 8 times in the NFC Championship game with Jimmy Garoppolo because he didn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. And he made the Super Bowl. And he was, by the way, winning the Super Bowl for 3 quarters, not throwing the football because he didn't trust the quarterback. He knows he has to hold Brock Purdy's hand. And he's one of the best play schemers, play callers in this game. But he's also proven he can win using that path. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jonathan Gannon adjusts. Typically, as I said, he wants to limit explosive plays, and he's willing to give up some rushing yardage. You might have to shift that.
John, I'll tell you this. Had Kyle Shanahan continued the game plan in the divisional round and the wild card round that he implemented in sheltering and not believing in Jimmy Garoppolo against the Kansas City Chiefs, he'd already have his Super Bowl championship. Because in that game against the Chiefs, he decided that he was gonna put Jimmy Garoppolo out there as the passer, and that cost them the football game. If they just ran against one of the worst rushing defenses. So what worries me is that he learned his lesson, okay? It didn't work with Jimmy, and it cost me a Super Bowl. I blew another one in Atlanta, not running the football and
not
taking
running it, yeah.
So I really look for him to come into this game and establish the run, and I think the Eagles are going to have to go 7-man box to get it under control in order to get this game under control. Because, listen, San Francisco 49ers, they're not a team that really wants to hit big shots down the field. They want to just nick you and cut you, nickel and dime you, move the chains, score every possession. And when you get behind the chains on first and second down, and this is what happened to Dallas in the second half. They ran the ball on first down, a little pitch out to McCaffrey on second down, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Those are so easy to convert and keep the chains moving. So the Eagles are going to have to, on first down, get up and load the box and put them in 2nd and long situations to try to get to 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, I mean, if the 49ers, the thing is, you go back to the Super Bowl you're talking about, the 49ers had a 10-point lead in that game, and all of a sudden here comes Patrick Mahomes, and we all know how explosive Kansas City is. And the minute San Francisco got behind, it was late in the game, remember. It was late in the game. Then they had to have Jimmy Garoppolo throw the football. They were done. So essentially, that's the Eagles' path to victory. They need to play from the lead. San Francisco's not comfortable playing from behind. Now, they'll be disciplined early in the game. If it's 10-0, they'll still stick with the running game. But if it's the 3rd quarter and the Eagles, late in the 3rd quarter, the Eagles are up by 10, San Francisco's in deep trouble because they can't throw the football consistently.
John, of course, we hope that this is our second to last prediction we get from you during this season and the postseason, obviously. What are you looking at today for Eagles-Niners Championship Sunday, NFC Championship game? What is your official prediction?
Well, I am picking the Eagles to win the football game. I have it very close, one-score game late, and I think the Eagles will squeak it out. So 24, it might even be 24-23, 24-21, something in that range. However, I will say if it's a blowout, the Eagles are winning this game. It's not going to be a blowout San Francisco's way. So it's a very small path to victory for San Francisco. But again, Kyle Shanahan has proven in the past that he can navigate it. I think it's going to be a difficult game, but I think the Eagles come out on top.
I like it. I'll go with the blowout. I'll just take the blowout. That's all I'll hear from that. John McMullen, of course, our NFL insider, brought to us by Thrive Financial Services. Go to Thrive Financial Services right now and get your free retirement playbook. We'll be back. We got plenty more JAKIB Media pregame show, plenty more Road to Glendale coming up in a few here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel as well as 6abc.com.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.
From the always electric gallery bar booking games here at Ocean Casino Resort, it's the JAKIB Media pregame show, The Road to Glendale. Brought to you by our friends at Joe Messa and Associates at Messa Law. Always electric, of course, at Lincoln Financial Field, and the atmosphere is always great right here when it comes to game day, where you could bet on your birds here in Ocean Casino. It is a great time as per usual.
My name is Ivan
Gentlemen, when we
Taki.
talk a lot about what the both offenses really bring to the table, we focused a lot of our attention so far defensively, and rightfully so, when you talk about the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I know Brock Purdy has been stealing a lot of headlines, and I know they came out, I don't know if you saw it, the movie poster Rocky put up with Brocky. Nice try, San Francisco. But when it comes to the way he has performed as of late and in the latter stages of the season, he has been very impressive. It's nice to do that when you have a safety net like the San Francisco 49ers defense. But when you can also rely on guys like Christian McCaffrey, also Elijah Mitchell, who is not active today. He is inactive today for the San Francisco 49ers. But you also look at Brandon Ayuk, you look at George Kittle. Any one of these guys can step up and beat a defense on any given day. You talk about this Eagles offense, though, and you can make a lot of the same comparisons, whether it's Dallas Goedert, whether it's A.J. Brown, whether it's Devontae Smith, and, of course, they're quarterbacked by only a guy who has kept his name in the MVP conversation all season long. So, gentlemen, with all the time we spent defensively speaking, Gunnar, I'll ask you first. When you look at this Eagles offense, who do you think is most likely to have the most success today against this defense?
Well, I think the obvious answer has to be A.J. Brown because of what the numbers he's put up in the regular season, and we know he's Jalen Hurts' guy from way back. But there's part of me that believes the 49ers may try to double up on him and try to take him out of his game. And if that's the case, I think Devontae Smith could have a big game in it because he's going to have a lot of one-on-one situations. He's an excellent route runner. He doesn't shy away from competition, great hands, and he's deceptive in his routes as well. So I think I go into this game believing that A.J. has that bitter taste in his mouth from last week's game. He only had 3 catches for 22 yards. He was nicked up a little bit with a hip and ankle injury, I believe it was. He was frustrated. You know, we all thought he was ticked off about something on the sideline. Turns out it was just frustration that he wasn't more of a viable option in that offense. He's going to want to come out in a game of this magnitude with a vengeance. But if San Francisco and DeMeco Ryans try to limit his touches in this game, it could be a huge game for Devontae Smith.
All right, so you're looking at maybe Devontae Smith there. Seth, who do you look at as a guy that could really, other than Jalen Hurts, who's the guy you think steps up as a star of the show?
See, I think it'd be a major mistake for Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Shane Steichen to make it a priority to push the ball to A.J. Brown because he was in his feelings a little bit last week. You just play the game. I mean, you call the plays. If he's the primary and he's open, you give it to him, okay? If he ain't open, go to the next guy. You know, so whoever it is, you know, I don't know because I don't know how they're going to play him. San Francisco, for the most part, is a zone team. They like to sit in the zone. The linebackers are really, really good at reading the quarterback's eyes. They get a jump on the ball. Even, you know, on the dump-offs, you know, they're fast, they're aggressive, you know, and they fly to the football. I just think that, you know, you have to use guys' strengths against them, okay? So what do they do well? The linebackers do a very good job of fast flowing and getting to the football. So you got to give them a little carrot to get them off their spot so that you can get the hole or get the gap in the defense where you want it. I'm just, every single opportunity that I get to flash Dallas Goedert or Miles Sanders or one of those guys in front of them to pull them up a little bit, I'm going to do it. Because where you're really going to make your hay is that level behind the linebackers and in front of the defensive backs. Teams don't usually get a chance to get it because they don't threaten the linebackers and they can't get the linebackers to move off their spot enough to really get behind them. So it's going to take some creativity, some combo routes, things of that nature. The defensive backs, the 2 corners, listen, they like to jump stuff. They think that their rush is going to be so phenomenal that the quarterback is only going to have one read. So whatever move that you give him, the quarterback's got to be throwing on time. He got to be throwing on the wrist. That's a great setup for double moves, for hitch and goes, sluggos, all of these different things, you know, where you're giving these corners on the outside because everyone believes that that's the weak link of this defense is the 2 cornerbacks. So how do you begin to take advantage of that? So I'm not going to predict who it is. I just don't know because it will all depend on how the game plays out and what the game plan is in attacking, you know, this offense. It's another one of them games. San Francisco 49ers ranked number 2 against the rush, and number 1 against the rush. They only give up 79 yards a game, but they give up 222 yards passing, which has them ranked at 19. Okay, scares the hell out of me, man.
Gotcha.
It scares the hell out of me because the one thing, in my opinion, that you can't do is you can't make yourself one-dimensional. You know, you just can't do it. You can't aid a team like this, you know, with a pass rusher like Nick Bosa. You can't give him that carrot of just coming out and throwing the ball all over the place because they're a worse team against the pass than they are against the run. And you can't get discouraged when you're only getting 1 or 2 yards when you run the ball. You got to stay committed to creating balance. And if you can create enough balance, then you can get everything else that you want within your offense. Don't put Jalen in that position by coming out throwing the ball 40, 50 times against this defense today.
I definitely want to ask you more about Nick Bosa, but I want to go back to something you said a second ago when it came to A.J. Brown. Do you believe that he was all caught up in his feelings there? He was upset? Or do you think it was a matter of just being upset at the fact that he wasn't healthy enough to contribit more?
Well, listen, he's not addressing it if he wasn't feeling some type of way about it.
Okay.
Well, I feel like I can change the game. When I got the ball in my hand, every wide receiver, he catches, 10 balls, he wants 15 balls.
Right.
That tells me right there that, that might not have been the totality of it all. I'm not going to point my finger at him, but the fact that he addressed it and someone asked a question and he felt the need to address it, he felt some type of way about only having 3 catches last week. And I know what it is. I'm the number one. I'm the 1A, okay? I make $25 million a year. You didn't bring me here to block. You brought me here to score touchdowns and catch balls. Throw me the damn ball. But he ain't going to say it. You could just see the frustration, and I wish that it wouldn't have come across that way, because I've been doing interviews and TV shows all week long talking about the nonsensical nature of it. He's a team guy. He wants to win. I get it. But every wide receiver, every number 1 wide receiver on the team feels like if the ball is in my hand, then I can make something happen. Dude, you went in at halftime 28-0, and you complaining?
I think A.J. Brown handled it perfectly with all the speculation out there. Was he hurt? Was he upset he didn't have more looks? Is when he came out to the media and he said, look, I will never be a distraction on the team. He said, it's not about me, it's about us. I'm going to get to that championship game. And that silences everything else. No matter what we sit on the outside looking in, think he was thinking about. As a competitor, I'm sure he wanted the ball more. But the fact that he came out there and put that out there, because we've seen athletes who will come out and give you a hint that they are frustrated because they didn't get more looks, more touches. He squashed that real quick when he says, I will never be a distraction on this team, in a game, in a practice, so on and so forth.
I would just say this. I just wish it hadn't come up. Okay.
You know it's going to come up, though.
Well, come
There's
on,
a
man.
lot of cameras on that field, Seth.
Come on.
Yeah, you know what?
You look, body language says a lot.
No, you're 100% right. But we dealt with this with Avante Smith at the beginning of the year, remember? A.J. Brown comes out with 15 catches the first game of the year.
Right.
And Avante Smith just didn't even address the media. He got dressed and left, because he only had like 2 or 3 targets, So I get it. All
right, well, I will say this about Avante Smith. One of my favorite highlights from him this year was a play he only made a block on.
Oh, yeah.
Because his celebration, if you remember, I forget, he was doing cartwheels, man. I've never seen a wide receiver more happy to just throw a block, so that was great. Now, let's talk about Nick Bosa for a second here, because the big test last week was for Lane Johnson and whether or not he was going to be anything close to 100% healthy. What percentage of Lane Johnson were you going to be getting back in that game and back for the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, I don't know about you gentlemen, but I thought he passed the test last week with flying colors. Now you only bring in a guy, Seth, as you alluded to earlier in the show, is most likely the defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa. What are you doing if you're DeMeco Ryans with him? Are you lining him up on Lane Johnson and testing him early, or are you going to line him up over Jordan Mailata, who Nick Bosa, by the way, a little bit of a shot at Jordan Mailata earlier in the week when they asked him about how skilled of a player Jordan Mailata is. Nick Bosa said simply, well, I don't know if he's all that skilled, I just know he's huge. So, yes, I can confirm Jordan Mailata is ginormous. But can I also say that he is one hell of a left tackle, especially for a guy that just stepped foot on the football field just a couple of years ago. So if you're the San Francisco 49ers, DeMeco Ryans right now, how are you using Nick Bosa in this game, Gunner?
I'm going to test both sides. They're going to move him around, because if you go back to last week's game, 7 plays into the Eagles' first offensive series, we saw Lane Johnson grab the groin, and we're thinking, uh-oh, here it comes.
Right.
Lo and behold, he was tough enough mentally and physically to finish that game out. So if I'm Nick Bosa, I'm going to test him, especially when he sets up the pass, to see where he is. But more importantly, I'm going to test him against Jordan Mailata. I've said it all season long. I think Jordan Mailata is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. He's been good for much of the season. He's been inconsistent at times when it comes to pass blocking. If Nick Bosa and DeMeco Ryans can identify that they can get an advantage on him in the pass rushing situation, especially if they're forcing the Eagles to throw the football more than they're running the football, that's not a good scenario.
He already has Jalen Hurts in his book twice from their meeting last year in Week 2. Remember how that stage was set? The Eagles went down to Atlanta, opened their season. They came back to South Philly, and unfortunately Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers handed them a loss. Nick Bosa, 2 sacks in that game. How do you use him today, Seth?
Well, I think they're going to use him in both scenarios. Because if you go back and you look at the game, that you just referenced, in Week 2 last year, I mean, Nick Bosa just dominated. He dominated Jordan Mailata in that game. And he pretty much lived over, on that left side of the line because, he wasn't getting much done versus Lane. So I expect for them to start off on Mailata to see if that technique has gotten any better and whether Mailata can handle him in the passing game. But I fully expect for him to be over on Lane Johnson. I've heard they really want to test, that groin and find out whether they can wear him down over the course of the game with a lot of bull rushes and things of that nature. Now, if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, okay, all I got to do is go back to the first game against the Dallas Cowboys to remedy how it is that I'm going to take care of Nick Bosa. See, the conflict that they put Micah Parsons in that first Dallas game is the same game plan that I think that the Eagles need to implement against Nick Bosa. Listen, he's got 18 sacks. The only other guy on that defense, with anything comparable has 5 sacks. So who are you worried about the most? Yeah, you're worried about the other guys, okay? But you really got to get Nick Bosa under control. So if you want to line them up to the weak side against our offense, okay, I'm gonna go Y off. That's the tight end off the ball, away from him on the strong side. On the snap of the ball, okay, Dallas Goedert's coming across. Okay, the same way they did with Micah Parsons. Now you put him in conflict because he sees him coming, and he knows that if I go get Jalen, Jalen's gonna dump it off to Goedert. Goedert's gone. If I stay there and I pick up Dallas Goedert coming across, well, Jalen's going to stand in the backfield and complete the pass. So he's in a quandary at all times, and that's what you want to do. That's how you slow him down. When you're trying to slow down a fast defense, an aggressive rush, you got to have plays like that. You got to have delayed draws, where they're getting up the field, and now you hand the ball off on a delay, to Miles Sanders. There's some things that they can do, to slow him down. But you don't want to get in a situation where that guy gets revved up, and Jordan Mailata is struggling a little bit, or you get that guy revved up, and you got Lane Johnson over there and he's not 100%. So you're just trying to figure out how to get him through this game and get him to February 12th, whole and ready to go.
Now, Seth, you alluded to earlier the fact that when you look at the San Francisco 49ers defense, number 1 in terms of points allowed, best in points allowed, best in terms of yards allowed. But when you look at the rush defense as well, they're the second best in the NFL for what they were able to put out there on the field this past regular season. So how important is it today, Seth and Gunnar, when it comes to trusting Miles Sanders and trusting that offensive line, that you don't do what the Eagles have done, whether it been Andy Reid, whether it been Doug Peterson, at times Chip Kelly even, and at times Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen? How do you trust this Eagles offense to not abandon the run?
You have to be patient, especially in the first half of the game. If it's not working the way you want it to, you have to be patient. One of the most interesting things about this 49ers run defense is in the last 27 games straight, they have not allowed an individual rusher to run for more than 70 yards on their defense. 27 games straight. There's a reason why they're that good against the run and that's susceptible to the pass. The Eagles have the offensive line. They have the running back to break that trend today. But you have to stay patient, committed to running the football, especially if it's a close game. Do not abandon the run because as Seth has said earlier in the show, and as I've said earlier in the show, don't play into an opponent's hands and make them feel that they can win this game in your backyard because as we know, anytime you make an opponent in the fourth quarter feel like they can win this game, 50% of the time, strange things start happening, Seth.
Hey, listen, just because the numbers dictate that you can't run the ball,
right,
doesn't mean that you just completely give up on it. I just think that, and there's something to consider. You know, a lot of teams run these zone plays. They run these stretch plays. When you're playing against a fast defense, those are the worst plays that you can run at them because these linebackers run like defensive backs. These defensive linemen are really good with their hands at dominating their gap and shedding blockers and going to the football. And the big guys run to the football, okay? The way that you nullify, you know, fast defenses is you either run delay plays, misdirection because they're fast flowing, or you just run straight at them, okay? So I don't want to see the Eagles trying to get outside, to get on the edge. It's not going to work. It's not going to work the way that these guys fly to the ball, the way the safeties read what's going on, and the way they come downhill right now. You got to run right at them. So the minute that Miles got his hands on the ball, the defensive linemen are engaged in their blocks. They're so engaging with the defensive linemen that Miles is hitting the hole while they're engaged. You know? Make it quick. We don't need a home run out of the running game. What we need is 4 or 5 yards on the first or second down to either put us in, you know, a 3rd and short situation or a 2nd and 4 or less situation that allows us to get creative on second down where they don't know whether we're going to run or pass the ball.
Gotcha. Now, last week, around this time, we went to Lincoln Financial Field for a shot on the field and a scene setter there. We tried to get into the tailgate with our friend Joe Messa of Messa Law and Associates. Now we're going to try to do that one more time and get a vibe of the tailgate.
Oh, Lord.
Joe, how are you, man? Welcome in.
I'm good. What's up, guys? We're all fired up, ready to go. Heading into the stadium, all bulked up. Go Birds!
Now, is this all real confidence we got going on there that the Eagles are going to come away with the victory today?
Hey, it's awesome out here. We had a great tailgate out in the parking lot, heading in early. Going to give some hell to the 49ers and win this game. Let's go, guys.
Hey, Joe, what was on the menu today for pregame? What was on your menu for pregame today?
We had cheesesteaks, burgers, sausage and peppers, chicken skewers, filet on skewers, pizza. We got it all going on.
Hey, Joe, can you send us a little care package down here? We ain't living like that, brother.
Hey, it's all about the Birds. We're getting ready to go in the stadium and cheer the Eagles on to a victory.
Joe, I need a loud Eagles cheer from everyone at your tailgate. Tell them to abandon the pizza maker for a second to make a cheer.
We're ready to go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagles! Woo!
There we go. That is the vibe.
Joe, what's your prediction for the game? Give me a score.
I'm going to say 27-21 Birds.
All right. There you have it.
Right around the ballpark. How about, is that the same feeling the rest of the tailgaters that are there? They're all full of pizza and sliders and all that great stuff. Is everyone feeling a nice Birds win?
Burgers, tequila, beer, vodka. We're all ready to go. We're going to get crazy in that stadium and bring it. Let's bring it for the 49ers and loud and proud for the Birds.
If you do send a care package, don't forget the tequila part of that.
You got it. Don't forget, we win today. We're on our way to Glendale. You guys, we're talking about loading up the tailgate trailer, hitching up to an RV, and rolling out there. You guys are all invited. We're going to go big or go home.
Sounds good. Joe,
not a bad
you're
idea.
The best. Joe, thank you so much. Joe Messa, Messa Law and Associates, bringing us the road to Glendale. Of course, I figure, Gunner, you man the grill, I'll man the pizza.
Hey, man, he just act like he didn't even hear my food comment.
No, he didn't.
I was like,
you know how loud it is out there? I'm surprised he can hear anything.
He heard everything else. He act like I'm like, you got to send some of them steaks and sausage and cheesesteaks and all that stuff down here.
If we're on the Joe Mesa tailgate in Glendale, Arizona, I'll man the grill.
Oh, damn right.
I'll man the grill. Ain't no question about that.
Hey, Joe, what's the weather like? Pizza and sliders. What? We'll be back with more of the Road to Glendale here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel at 6abc.com in a few.
My name is Avante. I'm a Philadelphia born and raised artist, entrepreneur. Been doing this for 27 years. I got pulled over by an officer and I was wrongfully accused for something that I didn't do. So at that moment, you know, I didn't think of nobody else to call but Adam. It's something about the way Adam himself is that makes the rest of the team play the same way. You want to have somebody that you can trust, somebody that you believe in, somebody that's fighting for you. in that situation, and to know that you're in good hands. And when you feel that confidence and you feel that love and you feel that respect, that you're not just a number, that they're actually taking a little bit extra oomph and extra love, then you know that you're in good hands and they're looking out for your best interests, whatever that may be.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Plan your day with confidence.
Keep the umbrellas on hand.
With Action News and AccuWeather.
Numerous tornadoes.
Your go-to team when severe weather strikes.
The water is still rising.
Keeping you prepared wherever you watch. Action News and AccuWeather, the team you trust.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish.
My son Kellen was a lively, vivacious, and sassy child. At the age of 4.5, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and he had a very short battle of only 10 months before he lost his life.
Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted to celebrate the life of my 5-year-old. And knowing his personality and knowing who he was at the core, that had to be something special.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Welcome back to the Gallery Bar, Booking Games and Ocean Casino Resort for the JAKIB Media pregame show on the road to Glendale, brought to you by Joe Messa, Messa Law and Associates. You know, we thought we couldn't have any more fun, but then look who stopped by. The man's pulling double duty, ladies and gentlemen, not just the postgame show, dropping it on the pregame show as well, our friend Mike Missinelli. Mike, how you doing, man?
Guys, good to see you, and this is a special game. I mean, this is the best Sunday ever, right? Because you got the two games. The loser goes home. It's bigger than the Super Bowl, this game.
This game's bigger than the Super Bowl.
It's much bigger than the Super Bowl.
We literally had Derek Gunn
starting
off the show, all giddy, all just tickled pink, and then you have the same excitement, my friend.
The loser goes home. So the stakes can't get any higher. You get to the Final Four to survive. Yeah, the game's great. The Super Bowl's great. But if you don't win this game, you're done.
Wow.
Mike, let me ask you this. Are you one of these guys who's anxious all week long leading up to a big game? See, my theory is I wait until the day of the game and then just unleash everything. How do you approach it?
I approach it slowly, Dave.
There you go.
Yeah, I approach it slowly. I kind of I form an opinion early, and I kind of ride with that. I have been pretty confident all week. I don't have any yips about this game at all. So
wow.
Yeah, maybe that's wrong. I know Seth's going, okay, you don't disrespect your opponent. I get it, man, but I'm telling you, I've been riding a confident wave all week, so I'm ready. I'm ready to make my prediction.
Okay, so it's right here in front of me, Mike. You know, ESPN Analytics says the Eagles have a 65% chance of winning. The 49ers only have a 34% chance. What say Mike Missinelli?
I think that's right on the button. Here's the thing. You know, I don't want to disrespect the quarterback. I think the kid has done a marvelous job. But these are the hottest lights he's ever going to be playing on, right? And we don't have any frame of reference for these hot lights with this kid.
Right.
I just don't think he's going to be able to make enough plays in this kind of a hot light to beat the Eagles. And the way I look at it, the Eagles scored 3 touchdowns. The 49ers scored 2 and a couple field goals. That puts the Eagles ahead, right? Like, if they either they win it 24-20 or they win it 21-20. Because I just think they're going to be able to score more than the 49ers are going to score. I think this kid is going to be okay, but he's not going to be good enough. He's not going to be able to score enough points. So what I'm saying is, if you're betting, and I'm about to run over to that kiosk right over there, I'm taking Eagles and money line. I don't even want to mess with the 2.5, 3.
Can you front me? Can you front me some money?
Well, listen, they win 21-20, I win. They win 24-20, I win, right?
There you go.
The safe play, I think the Eagles win. I'm not going to disrespect the 49ers. I think it's going to be a really close game. It may go down to the wire. But I don't think the kid's going to be able to make enough plays. Their defense is going to hold the Eagles. I get it. But 24 points is holding the Eagles. And I don't think the 49ers can score that.
Hey, Mike, I'm glad you said that about the rookie quarterback, because here is the confirmation you need to make your bet, okay? Rookie quarterbacks in NFC Championship games are 0-4, all right? So that's the confirmation you need. If you felt confident about the Eagles all week, the fact that you just got that stat, I want 5% whatever you win.
Listen, I know I'll give you 3.
How about 3.5?
We got the negotiation going.
3.5 is sold. I'm good with that. But I just don't want to disrespect the kid. All week long, social media wars are going.
Right.
Well, you're disrespecting. I'm not disrespecting him. I think he's done a magnificent job. I don't have any frame of reference that he could be the number 1 seed in this kind of a spot. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I just don't see it.
Well, see, Mike, that's where I'm right with you. Because I respect Brock Purdy. I respect the San Francisco 49ers, everything they have done this year. But that doesn't mean I don't acknowledge the fact that I think the Eagles are the better football team at home, getting the 2.5 going into this game.
You know, it's really elemental. Without us being homers, and you look at it elementally, right, or elementary, whatever.
I got you.
Whatever it is, that kid's got to make some plays in this game, and he'll make okay plays. He's not going to make enough to get them to a score that wins. That's the way I see it.
And he's throwing into the best secondary in the NFL,
yeah,
which is also a nice thing.
And he's going to get rushed like crazy. And I feel sorry for Mike McGlinchey, who's a nice local kid, right? But Hassan Reddick's going to wreak hell on him today, I think.
Now, Seth, I know you took exception to the as big as the Super Bowl, so go ahead, your thoughts.
It's not as big as the Super Bowl. Plain and simple. I mean, you know, in context, I get 100% what Mike is saying, because if you don't win today, you don't get a chance to get to the Super Bowl. But it's not bigger than the Super Bowl. I played in 2 of them. There's nothing like it. Nothing beats it. Playing in that big game.
For the player, probably, right? Yeah. For the fan, though, the Final Four in NCAA basketball tournament is always the marquee day, right? The Super Bowl has all the fanfare that surrounds it, but this is like life or death. If you don't win this game, you go home and you lament watching other people in the Super Bowl.
Hey, trust me, I've lost a Super Bowl. It's life or death, too. I know what it is to be, go home and isolate in your house for 2.5 months and don't come out after you lost a Super Bowl. So don't talk to me about it. It is life and death.
At least you got there and you enjoyed the fanfare of getting there.
If the Eagles, don't win this game,
I can't even tell you what my NFC Championship ring is. Sorry, D-Gun.
if the Eagles don't win this game, there's a lot of therapists and psychologists that are going to make a whole lot of money this week consoling Eagles fans, man.
Total devastation it'll be, because I think fans are convinced that they win this game.
And rightfully so, based on performance.
I haven't seen the scared reaction
this
week that I normally see.
Exactly.
Let me say something about Brock Purdy. Mike, I don't think it's disrespect what people are saying about him, because you know what? You got to prove it. You got to prove it. 7 games is not a big enough sample size to say, what this kid can and what he cannot do. All the elements were right for him to accomplish what he's accomplished. You got the best offense, one of the best offenses, personnel for personnel across the board. You got one of the best play callers and head coaches in the National Football League. He's put you in a situation to be a game manager, and you're playing behind the best defense in the National Football League, statistically, because really the Eagles give up less total points than the San Francisco 49ers do by 3 yards. But I digress. Until you've been in this situation before, okay, and people can talk about it all they like to, until you've experienced walking into the lair of the Philadelphia Eagles fans in Lincoln Financial Field, until he experiences, not even being able to hear yourself think, okay? I'm telling you, this will be a different Brock Purdy today.
Let's face it, Seth. He's had 2 cozy games at home, right? And God bless the kid. He survived those games. They were favored in both those games. They had that home comfortableness with him in that game. This is a completely different atmosphere for the kid. And it's the #1 seed he's playing against
hasn't
in
played
enemy
on the
territory.
East Coast in the NFL. He's never played on the East Coast in the NFL.
And he doesn't have, over his career, he hasn't been very good on the road. He's below 500 on the road. He's won 10 games on the road and lost 13 over the course of his collegiate career and his short, professional career. But listen, it's a different animal. And then when you throw into it, what you talked about earlier, Mike, the finality of it all. Okay, when you get to this game, it goes without saying that you think about the finality of the game before the game even starts. You try not to, but it's just human nature.
Well, here's the finality for him also. If he doesn't win that game, is he the starter for them next year? Like his whole career depends on him. If he wins this game, he's got a chance to be their franchise starter.
Well, he's going to go into next year competing against Trey Lance for the starting job. That's what it's going to look like.
But if he loses, he comes in as the backup.
I don't think so.
Well,
I don't
we'll
see.
see.
I think
that kind of pressure on him as well.
I think they both go in on an even playing field and then show me what you got. Because from what I understand about Trey Lance, they're not overly pleased or happy with him and his development. So what's the smart thing to do? You come in, if it's really about meritocracy, then you bring them both in. He's the first-round guy that you want to be, your franchise guy. But this guy, Mr. Irrelevant, made himself relevant for your team when you needed him the most. You're going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. So this is your level playing field quarterback battle going into OTAs next year, in my opinion.
And not only that, Seth, but let's say he plays well in this game and they still lose. Now you put the 49ers in a very uncomfortable situation because you have to think about what are we going to do with Trey Lance. We can't just give him the job based on what we've seen this kid. We don't know what Trey Lance's body of work is because he got hurt the first game of the season. So if this kid becomes a Pied Piper in the Bay Area, there's a possibility they may try to move Trey Lance in the offseason.
I would say this. It would shock me if he makes enough plays to win this game. And the only thing that I think can prevent the Eagles from winning this game is a bad turnover. Where they give the 49ers free points, maybe multiple, but one in a big spot that gives them that extra touchdown that I don't believe they can score.
Mike, listen, Jalen Hurts is 15-1 as a starter this year, okay?
Yes.
The 2 games that they lost that are really consequential games, 3. They had 4 turnovers against Washington. They had 4 turnovers against Dallas. And then they followed up with 3 turnovers. What's the other game that they lost? The Saints.
Yeah.
They had 3 turnovers against the Saints, okay? Come on, man. I mean, there's just the only thing that beats this football team is turnovers or a bad play on special teams. Other than that, they don't beat themselves.
Well, Mike brings up a good point because until they played the Giants last week in the playoffs, they had not won a turnover battle in 4 consecutive games when they had dominated. You look at the San Francisco defense. Guess who's the #1 defense in creating turnovers? You watch when they tackle, #1, they're a sure tackling team, but #2, they are always going after the football. That's why they generate the turnovers.
Always.
It's imperative you take care of the football in this game in your backyard.
I will say this.
Yeah.
Quez Watkins stripped because he was trying to get extra yards after he was down.
Right.
Dallas Goedert stripped because he was trying to get extra yards.
Right.
This team thrives on that type of thing. Hold him up.
Yeah.
Let's tattoo his ribs and
Yeah.
somebody come in and pull the ball out.
Right.
I would say that the thing you got to do is you got to get what you can get
down,
and get your behind on the ground.
All right, we got to let Mike make sure he can
All
get
right.
his bet in. Mike, you have 24-21. What do you?
24-20 or 21-20.
Okay, either way, Eagles are winning.
Staying away from the point spread.
Copy that. Understood. Gunner, where are you at for your official prediction for this game?
I'm going to stick with what I've said all week long, and I'm going to say about 23-20.
23-20, another close one.
23-20 Eagles.
Eagles win, but they also cover. What do you got, Seth?
Listen, the Eagles are averaging 28 points a game. 49ers are averaging 26 points a game. The Eagles only giving up 19 points a game. San Francisco's giving up 16 points a game.
Right.
So when you start to think about those things, you know, do they apply today? A little bit. But on the bigger scale, the pressure and the intensity of the moment, in my opinion, is what applies to how this game is going to wrap up today. No doubt that the Eagles win this game. I don't think it's a high-scoring game, but I don't think it's a relatively low-scoring game either. But I like the Eagles to walk away with the 4-point win, 21-17.
21-17, favor of the Birds. I'm going 30-20. Eagles win this game. See you guys when we get to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, and we'll hear how loud that Ric Flair woo is.
Oh, he been hanging around Barrett Brooks, boy. I tell you what, that's a Barrett Brooks woo. Woo! I can't even do it.
Barrett Brooks can't reach the octave level.
You're right. You're right.
Mike Misselli will be sitting right here for the post-game show. I'll be along with Devin Caney for the halftime show. Guys, thanks for joining us here. For Mike Misselli, Derek Gunn, and Seth Joyner, I'm Marc Farzetta. Thanks for watching JAKIB Media YouTube channel. It comes to the pregame show and Road to Glendale.
Let's go, Birds. Fly now.
Our friends at Mesa Law and Associates. See you at halftime. Go Birds.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Mesa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at mesalaw.com. Mesa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Delval Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Weather forecasting is a team game.
We rely on each other every day, updating the models and passing along new critical information.
We have a team of 5 experienced meteorologists and a specialized weather producer, Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Sometimes what I see in the model, Cecily could see something different.
That's when we come together as a team to make our most accurate prediction.
And all of this backed by more than 100 AccuWeather scientists. It's a team game.
And we have the best team in town.
Jeff D'Ambrosio doesn't need a special event to appreciate his customers. Jeff shows his appreciation to them every day of the year. Jeff makes sure to stock more new inventory than anyone and guarantees prices and payments that nobody can beat. There are so many reasons that thousands of customers know Jeff is the easy, friendly place to do business. More for their trades, no judgment zone for credit issues, the best, most reliable service department in the country. That's why I like Jeff, and I know you will too. Jeff will satisfy you every day. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Owner Appreciation Event.